Greetings and welcome to Pinball Help. Mike here. Work continues on this Stern Trident early solid-state pinball machine. This is part 2 of our video series. In part 1, I demonstrated what was wrong with the drop target bank. It was not functioning properly and was kind of sluggish. So here I'm going to show you how you can remove this and how you can service it. I'm also going to talk a little bit about this because this is a pretty interesting design that Stern used, and I believe this is proprietary to them, although it is derivative of the Bally technology, a lot of which they copied during this time. But Stern did come up with some pretty clever things. So this assembly is really quite heavy, and it attaches into the wiring harness in multiple ways, so it's not the easiest thing to be able to get to service, but it is possible to remove the main assembly from the game, and you can do that, and I'm going to go over that process. So first I want to talk about this. This is obviously a 5 drop target bank, and this thing resets it, and then when let me reset it. Let's see. There you go. And now I've got it setting on the pop bumper there, but you can see they're not just going down smoothly. Probably a problem with the springs, and some stuff is gunked up, so it needs to be taken apart and cleaned. It's also pretty clever in that there's a series of coils that are built into the drop target bank that allow the computer to selectively drop some of them down so it can reset drop target banks and put some of them up. It's very neat. And this obviously gives the game designers a lot of flexibility and control if they want to have not all the drop targets pop up for specific objectives. It's very neat, it's very clever, and I think it works really well. In fact, it's entirely possible that when I was starting up the game, it wasn't intention to put every target up. I don't know, because I'm not familiar with the base rule set, but still the game is really sluggish. The things are not coming down all the way. So we're going to clean this whole thing up. So first off, how can we access it? Well, there's a Molex connector that connects these coils here that you can just unplug, but there's 2 other sections that are literally wired into the harness. Now I used 4 Phillips screws right here to pull this from the assembly and out. So now we've got 2 other things that we have to detach. We have to get the coil, and then there's this switch bank here. So let's go over this process, and this is quite heavy, so I need to figure out a way of laying it while I can work on it. And so I'm going to try to do that, and hopefully it won't be too problematic. So the first thing we want to do is we want to get the switch stack off. So this detaches with just a couple of flathead screws right here. So I'll just reach in here and unscrew this, and I'll be very careful not to make sure it doesn't fall down somewhere in the game where I can't get to it. And I like using my little magnetic thing here to grab stuff. So we'll just, oops, of course I just dropped the magnetic thing. Okay. So first thing is to get the switch plate separate. So now that's separate. So these switches are now separate from that. And I will want to take some very fine, like 600 or higher sandpaper, and just clean all these contacts. I already checked them when I examined the drop targets to make sure that they were set relatively well, and they are, so I'm not going to fiddle with them a whole lot, but I obviously will, when I put the assembly back together, make sure the drop targets trigger them properly. Another nice thing I like about this, it's different from the Bally games, is even if the drop target doesn't go all the way down, it does trigger the switch. On some games, some Gottlieb games, if the target doesn't go completely down, it doesn't even trigger the switch. This, at least if the targets get a little gunked up, they still operate properly even if they don't go down all the way. So that's a kind of a nice design improvement over the Gottlieb drop targets, I think, where the target had to go completely down in order to trigger the switch. So now we got this out of the way. We need to take care of this coil, and all we really need to do probably for this is to undo the coil stop right here. Let me make sure the camera is on that properly. We're going to undo this guy right here. Be a little careful. This might actually have some thread lock on it if they did it right. So I'll oh, there's a nut there. Okay. Alright, there's not a nut on the other one. I'm wondering which one would be easier to remove. So there's a nut on that end, and this is threaded and screwed. If I just remove this one, maybe I can get it out. Let's try that. Because it'll be a lot harder to fiddle with a screw and a nut in the game. So I want to kind of, okay, so there's one screw. Let's get the other one out. All right, and I didn't drop anything. Okay, so this should come loose, and then this should be able to move forward off of the stop. If all goes well, let's see. Here we go. Okay. Looks like there's an aluminum coil sleeve in here. That's pretty interesting. Okay, so we'll just work that out. Look at that, a metal coil sleeve. That's old school. All right, so we have our whole assembly removed, and let's go back on this. And so I will take this and bring this to the bench. Oops. And this will allow us to really, you know, take a good look at it, clean it up, and make sure we're just going to get this thing all nice and in good shape. So that's where we're at right now. Stay tuned for the next part where we put this on the bench and we start cleaning it up. And be sure to visit pinballhelp.com and click subscribe and all that kind of stuff. And until next time, thanks for watching.